been a busy weekend so far this weekend. We're helping my daughter move from a house to a condo. So we moved most of the stuff last night in the evening. With a lot of her friends. It went pretty quick. And then there was a little bit more this morning. And then we had to stop and get freshened up and get dressed up. I'm actually wearing a dress. Woo! With a nice like white cardigan that goes over it. And we went to a celebration of life mass in honor of my brother-in-law, who had passed away from COVID in October last year. So, I can't do a lot of gardening today. Let's see. I did start sunflowers a couple days ago. And the salad greens I put in the to-go containers are growing pretty well. They're about 2 inches tall now. They're going to be the lettuces, spinach, and some other salad, like mixed greens that I had planted. And those are just in like carryout boxes. Super simple to do. So I did make a quick video about that, or I can't remember, a video or a post, something about it. A blog post, I think it was. And if you hadn't seen it yet, and it is from Carryout to Gardener in 3 easy steps. So if you wanted to take a look at that, you could do that. My full-time work I do from home, and I had been doing that for several years before COVID struck. And so for lunch, many times I don't take a lunch, but I'll like order in from carryout places, especially during the COVID time, because that seemed to be the only thing I could do. I couldn't get out of the house. Hi, I don't know who's watching, but hi. And so because I work at home for my regular full-time job, I order in a lot, and so I get a lot of carryout containers. And I thought, there's nothing wrong with using these as seed starting containers, as growing containers, like for my lettuces. I can do that too. And so I started doing that. And then I also use them as water dishes underneath my pots. So what I'm learning, okay, so let me back up a little bit. We have been moving my daughter, and then this morning we were moving my daughter some more, and then we went to the celebration of life thing, and then and it's a gorgeous day with no clouds in the sky. It's bright blue. There were clouds, there were even spray trails earlier, but they're not there anymore. It's just blue sky now. And it's only like 62, I think, but the outside greenhouse can get really hot. So we left to start moving my daughter some more, or to help move my daughter some more this morning, and it was dark. So I had opened up both sides of the greenhouse, the front, and I started the exhaust fan just to make sure that the plants had a chance. I had uncovered them up from the frost cloth, and just to make sure they had a chance in case it got warm. And a couple of weeks ago, I bought a monitoring kit for the greenhouse. There were 3 remote things, and I used one in the greenhouse, and then one in the hen house, just to make sure it's not too hot or cold, where they sleep at night, and one in the, where else? Oh, in the raised kitchen garden bed in front, because I wanted to see what kind of temperatures are there when the frost cloth is over the beds. So I've been monitoring those temperatures, and so far I've been able to keep the temperatures like 80 or under, which is really cool. And then there was a day, it was really cloudy, rainy, and cool. It was like 55, I think. were the outdoor temperatures, and I was able to close up the greenhouse and run the heater and set the heater to turn off when the greenhouse reached 65. And so because I have those remote monitoring stations, I can look on my phone. So as I'm working, like if I have to take a break, I'll take a quick peek at the temperatures in the outside greenhouse to see, do I need to, help the temperatures go up? Is it too cold in there, or are the temperatures getting too warm? So we've been going this today, and it's a gorgeous day, no clouds, and about 62 outside. And when I looked at the remote monitoring after we had gone out to lunch, I said, oh my gosh, the thing says that the greenhouse is like 86 degrees. And so I said, I have to run home and save my plants. So came home and opened more, like the bottom part of the door in the front, kicked up the exhaust fan a notch, and then turned on the overhead fan that would suck air from the outside in. That's toward the front of the greenhouse to bring the temperatures down. So I'm headed back over to my daughter's new place, and before I left I checked the remote, and it said that the temperature was down to like 79, which is fine. I have a lot of tomatoes in there. I have a lot of cosmos, zinnias, herbs, the heat-loving plants. And as I think it's okay, I've started to move the cold-loving plants into the ground because I know they're going to be fine. So I know that they're going to be fine, 75 to 80-ish, but I don't want to keep it real warm right now because I don't need them to have huge growth, because it's just still too early to put them in the ground. I need them to hold off another, oh gosh, at least another 2 weeks, I think. So what is today? The 7th. So yeah, maybe around the 21st-ish. It depends on the long-range forecast too. So that's what I was doing. I went back, collected eggs, put the eggs away, checked on the dog, emptied out my car, and then I'm heading back to my daughter's. And that's what I like, is that I can monitor the conditions in the greenhouse remotely. And if I'm out doing errands and I think, oh, maybe I'll spend a little bit longer here or there, I can check that monitor and see whether it's going to be okay or not. So that's what's going on there. So if you're thinking about getting a greenhouse, that's fine. And where we are, oh, I forgot, this is Tammy Lowe, the Lazy Northern Gardener. I garden in Macomb Township. I do services for Macomb Township, Oakland Township, north of Macomb Township, wherever it is that you need me. I have clients in Madison Heights and Troy and Oakland County. I have clients in Chesterfield and New Baltimore. So I can be just about anywhere in those areas. I like to sketch out. I like to design. I like to build gardens and garden beds. I like to install garden beds. I also like to install protections for your beds to keep the critters away. And what else? Oh, and I plant, and I tend to, and I weed, and I do spring cleanup. Anything that a gardener is going to do. A gardener and landscape, they do a little bit different things than each other. Landscapers tend to go more towards shrubs, trees, more permanent structures. I think of them as like putting out in the outline. But they're not going to come in and plant your tomato plant or your squash, or they're not going to, look at a landscaper typically isn't going to look at your roses with a fine-tooth comb and say, hey, this bug might be going on, this fungus might be going on. They might not look at your hostas and diagnose what's wrong with them versus what a gardener would do. A gardener would look at that stuff and think about the disease process and how to make the plants a little bit better that are growing in your yard. But I do, well, my husband and I, he's the heavy laborer. But I do we plant trees, we plant shrubs. Like I said, we build beds. I've built raised kitchen garden beds. And so those are the kinds of things that I do. And we moved into a lot that is less than an acre is what we can use. I think it's about 3/4 of an acre, because there's easements, like county easements with the public roads. And it was all grassy fields. There were a couple mature trees that had been planted years and years and years ago. A couple mid-sized trees that have been planted a long time ago as well. A big old crab tree in the backyard. But other than that, there were no flowers. There were no other shrubs. There was nothing else going on. And I had been told that the grounds it used to be, like where we were, used to be an orchard. So that made me interested. And then when we dug into the soil, we found out that a lot of it is like a sandy loam. So it's really good for growing just about anything. So that was in the middle of 2019, June 2019. So we have been there officially almost 3 years. And I can't even count how many trees I've planted and shrubs I've planted and plants and herbs and perennials. And I've made vegetable patches and cattle panel trellis arches. And we had a small, not the cloth, but like a plastic cloth, like hoop house, greenhouse. But because we're surrounded by countryside, the winds are ferocious there. So it worked for the first season. It was a smaller one. That was in June. And I think that one blew away and tore up. Then we got a larger one, and I thought for sure this thing was anchored down pretty well. And then in the fall of last year, yeah, I think it was like November-ish, huge windstorm, and it actually flipped over, looked like one of those little roly-polies on its back, and the posts were all bent and everything, and so it was not able to be secured. So I have been following a channel on YouTube called the Justin Rhodes Show, and it's about the Rhodes family. There's Justin and his wife Rebecca, and their 3 kids, which is now 4. It was 3 at the time. And she had the guys build her an Anna White greenhouse, which is super cool. And so the greenhouse that we built, we did it on, so it blew down toward the end of November, and then it was like a sunny weekend in the 40s. And so my husband and I built this Anna White greenhouse. And so it's got corrugated metal on the bottom sides all the way around. It is 10 by 16. Yes, 10 by 16. And it faces north and south. I think I did that wrong. I think I was supposed to face it east and west. But at any rate, we built all the framing inside the garage, and then we would take it out there and we put it together. We assembled it within a weekend, so it can be done. We do not have children around. We do not have outside commitments besides our full-time regular work. So weekends are free for us. So we built that in December, and then maybe it's been 2 years. Actually, it's 2 years ago. COVID messes things up. But at any rate, we have this greenhouse, and my goal this year was to climate control it, to make sure I can actually use it. Because if I can't use it, what good is it? So I have a heater that I've used just to take the chill out and over the winter, and then also I've installed the top is corrugated plastic, clear corrugated plastic, and then I installed bubble wrap down the sides, like of each of the, I forgot what you call those, between the beams. So it was like 2-foot strips that come down the sides, and that helps retain the heat, and it doesn't just disappear. So I was able to grow some stuff like February-ish, but just cold crops. And yeah, so it was 2 falls ago. And actually, so last fall I was able to grow some things from late October into like the beginning of December, and then it got too cold and they all died. So I can use the greenhouse. I probably can't use it in December, and I can't use it in January, but I can use it the rest of the year. I can put stuff in there to start things off, like the cold crops, and then I can move them out. And so that's what I've been trying to do, is regulate the temperatures by installing the fans, lifting the sides. My husband's he talked about installing a regular vent fan, because right now I have large, like, not factory fans, but they're like industrial size fans. One is venting out the side in the back, the north side of the greenhouse corner, and the other is hanging toward the top, like in front of the door in the front of the greenhouse. And so running the fans, having the sides rolled up, and then opening either the top part of the door, because it's a 2-partition door. There's a top and a bottom. So either opening the top to get some air in, or like I just did today when I went back to the house, I opened both doors. So the thing is wide open, except for screening that I put up, because I don't want the dumb cabbage moths to get in there, or other things that would like to make a home. So if you decide to get a greenhouse, you have to think about, is it the kind of greenhouse that is going to withstand the winds? The Anna White greenhouse, the plans are free online. It's supposed to, I think Justin Rhodes titled a video, and it said something about, it's an Alaskan proof greenhouse where it's made so securely the winds are not going to affect it. And we've had some pretty severe windstorms again, and that thing just has not budged, which is great. I really like it. So you have to think about, do you have winds that you have to try to put up with and deal with? Do you have a way to keep it cool? How cold do your temperatures get in the fall and in the early part of the year? So like November, December, January, February, and even parts of March. And then also, like, what kind of mechanisms do you have in place to regulate that temperature? So for example, this morning it was 50 degrees outside. The greenhouse was at like 55 because I had the heater on, just to make sure that things don't get frozen. And once I opened everything, the temps dropped down to 48. I knew it was only going to be for a couple hours, only about 48 then. But while I was gone, I'm like an hour away, not an hour, half an hour away from the greenhouse. Do I have the capability, one, to know what temperature this piece of plastic thing is going to be? Do I have the ability to modify the temperature? Like for me, I work at home, therefore I am available. When I see it on my monitor, it's too warm, I can run out there, make some adjustments, and cool it down. And then I can monitor and see, yes, the temperature has come down. Because it's no good getting a greenhouse if you go to plant and everything dies from the heat that you just started. You got all these beautiful seedlings that were going to be wonderful, and they all die from the heat. Or if the temperatures drop and then everything freezes. I mean, that's terrible. That's a super sad situation. So think about that if you decide to get a greenhouse. How am I going to regulate the temperature? Do I have the capability to monitor it remotely? Do I have the capability to change things remotely? And if you decided to look into greenhouses, there are greenhouse groups all over Facebook, and a lot of these people's greenhouses are amazing. And what else? Oh, And a lot of these people have wired in electricity. Like, we just started running electricity out there, like really good stuff with the GFCI, which I can't remember what it is. Yeah, and so I can run my fans, I can run my heater, I can run my temperature monitors and things like that. But some people have it all wired in. They have it set so that as soon as it reaches a certain temperature, some like little louvers open. They have some that little windows open, or a vent fan turns on, or all that good stuff. They have it all automated. So the lazy northern gardener method is figure out a system that works and then do it. And that means you have to, like, you plan to do something. It's a PDCA method, like they do in healthcare. Plan, do, check, act. So you plan out something and you see how it goes. You plan it out, then you do it and you see how it goes. And if it didn't go well, just trying to figure out where she lives. If it didn't go well, make changes. Oh, that's the check. Check it. How did it turn out? If it didn't go well, then make changes. Act. So PDCA, plan, do, check, act. And that's a lot of what gardening is, successful gardening. That's a lot of what homesteading is about, or farming, or any kind of methods that you're going to do with live things, living organisms. Maybe it's chickens, maybe it's pigs, maybe it's a horse, whatever it might be. Maybe it's your kids. It's the same kind of concept. Think about what it is you want. Think about the way to make it the most easy, simplified process as possible, so you don't have to keep stressing out. And you don't have to make it harder than it needs to be. So that's about greenhouses. At least what I've got right now. I'm not thrilled with rolling up the sides. And what I did is along the sides, the long edge of the sides, that I actually roll up on the sides of the greenhouse. And it's the clear plastic corrugated sheets. But on the insides of those sheets, I ran screen, like window screen, to keep the bugs out again. To keep the bugs out. And one side I actually roll underneath because it's on the west, and that's the way the winds blow. So I want that cross breeze coming from the west, and it blows out the exhaust fan on the east side. So that side can go like this. It doesn't matter to me. It can just go upward. But otherwise I roll it under, and then I've got like a cord, and I put it on a hook. It keeps that open. And then when I roll this side up, I put in a little cord and a hook, and it keeps that side open. And again, I've got the screens on both sides. The breeze is cross ventilation. It's also coming from the front of the greenhouse to the back, and then blowing outward. And then it's like today's, I gotta think a little bit ahead. Today is 62 degrees, but like I said, the greenhouse was at, what did I say, 86? I mean, that's a pretty big jump. If I just left it like it was, didn't turn an additional fan on, didn't open the door all the way, it probably could have climbed to 100. And I don't know about you, but I melt at 100, so plants are going to do that too. So I did purchase a, what is it called? 40%, a shade cloth. 40% shade cloth. So it either blocks 40% of the light, or it only allows 40% of the light. I don't know that yet. I'm still learning about that. And it is the same size. It's about the same size as my greenhouse top anyway. And so I need to take it out of the package, put it over the top, and then secure it somehow. Again, with the winds we have, I have to think about what is going to be the best way to secure it. But that will keep that direct sun from just heating it up. Like right now I'm in my car and the sun's coming in the window, and you know how hot it is. I mean, I could just turn the car off. Like right now I've got the air on because I'm old and it feels good. But But you know how hot it can get in your car, even with it closed for what, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. And that's what the greenhouse would do if I did not have ventilation. But now if you get those shades for your front window and it blocks the sun altogether, or when I close this sunroof up, it blocks the sun, it keeps the sun from coming in and heating it up, and that helps a lot. So I have to probably put that in tomorrow, I think so. And then also I have, like I said, I have to see how I can secure it. So a greenhouse, think about the wind, think about the manageability. I mean, because you could have 45 degrees in the morning and 100 degrees in the afternoon. We've had a lot of cloudy and rainy days lately, which is strange for me because I don't think of May as very cloudy and rainy. But I knew I didn't have to worry about the temperatures in the greenhouse. They're pretty steady, pretty stable, like plants like it, which is fine. You're going to think about wind, think about manageability, and ability to change the temperature to something that the plants are going to like. Oh, you also have to think about critters in the greenhouse, because I lost a whole bunch of baby Brussels sprouts and baby cabbage. Some of the cold crops. Is it cold crops or cold crops? I have to look that up sometime. But I lost a bunch of those just from mice. Mice. There were mice in the greenhouse, and they ate my babies. My baby seedlings. They ate my baby seedlings. So, we do have cats, but the cats aren't allowed in the greenhouse because I don't want them up on the shelves or digging the dirt or whatever. So, I bought an insert. So you take a 5-gallon bucket, and this insert's yellow and it's flat and it fits on top of the bucket, the 5-gallon bucket. You can put water in the bottom of the bucket, which I highly recommend, because when I caught my mice in the bucket, I was using buckets that I had already drilled holes in to like put food in, to grow food in and drain. So as they were in the bucket, they were chewing through trying to get out. So instead of these little drill holes, I had these big old 2-3 inch holes in my buckets. So anyway, I did find at least one bucket that could hold water. I put water in for like, what was it? I think about 2 inches of water, 3 inches of water would be fine because they can't swim. The other part, you don't have to put the water in there. You could keep them live in there, but you have to empty the trap. So at any rate, this lid is round, and you put it on top of the 5-gallon bucket, and it's got like a trap door, and it has a small, like a little sidewalk, a little runway to go up to the top, and you put peanut butter on the inside of the lid, and there's like a little mouse head that kind of elevates off of there, and then you put the peanut butter inside there. The mice are like, ooh, there's peanut butter. They run up this little ramp on top, and they run onto the trap door part. And when they run under the mouse head of the trap door part, that's when they fall in, and then they can't get out. So if you want to do it dry, you could leave it dry. You do have to release them somehow. And as soon as you release them, guess where they're going to go again? Back in the greenhouse. How do I know this? I know this because when I first used it, those little mice that had tried to chew their way out, there were 2 I caught at one time. There were 2 in the bucket. And I was like, wow, look at that. I was like, okay, how am I going to get rid of them? I figured out if I slid something underneath the bucket, then I could carry them out. That's fine. And I was like, now what am I going to do with them? Because they're alive. I said, well, excuse me. I said, I could give them to the chickens. They'll chase them, or they'll eat them, or whatever. So I have this bucket. The yellow lid is still on. I got a thing underneath the bucket so they can't get out that little hole that they made, or big hole that they made. And so I go to the chicken run, Oh, this kills me. I go to the chicken run, and I open up the lid on top, and I like shake them out onto the ground, and one goes like toward where the chickens are, and the chickens are running and trying to catch it, which they did not. They could not. And the other one ran like around the chicken pen. Then he ran under the fencing and onto the patio that's in front of the greenhouse and under the door and right back in the greenhouse again. I was like, really? This is not what I wanted to happen. So I have since put water in there. I've caught one. I've had to retrieve one from the water so far. I think they say too, you have to move it around and you have to bait the trap so they will actually come in there. But you will have critters. It might not be mice. It might be a mole. It might be what else we get in there? Snakes. I've heard of people having ants in there. I've heard of people having all kinds of different things in there. And like I said, I've got a screen door for it. So when I open the big corrugated plastic doors to get the air coming in, the airflow moving in, there's a screen door there so those doggone cabbage moths won't come in. It could be something. Could it be the hornworm? I don't know. I have to check that and see if that butterfly, if that hornworm moth / butterfly, whatever it is called, if it actually will go and seek the tomatoes and then lay their eggs. I have to look at that life cycle. But anyway, I don't want anything coming and eating my plants. And I don't want to poison, mice either, because we do have cats, we do have hawks, we do have all kinds of other things that prey on mice, and I don't want the poison to be getting into the food system. Now, one thing I did hear about mice and rats. This was so cool. I was watching a lecture on peach trees. So this guy was talking about peach trees, and he's talking about peaches and nectarines. He grows in California. And he said that, what was he talking about? He was just talking about the different pests that can come and wreck your crops. And the different ways of protecting your crops. Like it might be bird netting, or it might be, I don't know. There were a couple different ways he was talking about. But then he said about rats and mice. And he says bubblegum works. And I was like, really? So, one thing he said was about snakes. Not real snakes, but you can get pretend snakes that look like rattlesnakes and a couple feet long. You can put them in the trees. And he says that works for about 2 weeks to keep them away, which especially if you're trying to ripen your fruit, that's a great way to keep the birds off of them. Or you could put a black on your fence. Anyway, he talked about rattlesnakes or snakes, things that look like snakes for fruit trees. But then he talked about rats and mice. He says bubble gum works really well, which I actually need to try that next for my greenhouse. Because it's not poison. And what he said is that rats and mice cannot regurgitate. They can't regurgitate. So when they chew the bubble gum, they can't, it clogs up their stomachs. And they can't digest it, but they love bubble gum. And I think they said too, you got to be careful because your dogs might try to eat it. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I might try that. I have to move I have not had damage, knock on wood, I have not had damage within the greenhouse from the mice again. Not so far. But I probably need to also move the trap to a different spot just because they get accustomed to certain things, and rebait it with some peanut butter. And then I also would probably want to put some bubble gum around. And I also cleared up some clutter that they might hide in. And I found out too, okay, so your greenhouse, when you make your greenhouses shelves, you can do them with wood, you can do them with metal, you can do them with all kinds of things. I was reusing some of those plastic storage shelves you see. They have those posts that are about this big around, and they're what, a foot tall, maybe a foot tall, something like that. And you stack them like those kinds of stackers. And so I was using those, Well, somehow, and I opened the greenhouse in the spring. I said, something smells really bad. And I didn't know what it was. And I was like, I just hope it's not that, because this would be bad. But somehow they had gotten down, like it wasn't capped off at one of the shelves where the posts come up to the shelves. It wasn't capped. They had gotten in to the post, and there's hollow all the way through to the bottom, and they had died in the bottom of the shelving unit. And so I had to I flipped it over, and I was like, I can't leave it like that, and I'm not going to throw the shelves away. I have to get them out. So I had to flip it over and pull them out as gently as possible to discard them and clean it and reuse it for my greenhouse. Not one mouse, not 2 mice did I pull out, and my stomach was so sick. 3. There were 3 mice that had gotten in the holes all the way down and died in the same location. And there, unfortunately, you could see there was a part where it looked like they had tried to chew their way out, maybe at the very bottom shelf. So think about how you're going to stack your plants, what kind of supplies you're going to use, because you don't want mice to accidentally get stuck somewhere and then die and you don't know where they are. And that's a terrible, terrible, terrible smell. All right, what else about greenhouses? They come in all shapes and sizes. Look and see whether you're supposed to go north and south or east or west. It might make a difference. Think about where your winds are strongest usually. Usually in the good weather for us, it's west and it's south. But in the winter time, it's usually coming down from the north and the east. So you might really insulate on the north side of your greenhouse and leave the south side open. Definitely you want to face it south as much as possible, because especially in the winter time, because the sun's angle is lower in the sky and it comes across from the south is where the sun comes. And then in the summer it comes all the way up, like more direct up and down. But in the winter time it's lower in the horizon, so you want as much south exposure as possible. It would probably be good if you have shade on the west side, like if you had trees or shrubs on that west side of the greenhouse, or the southwest side, because that's the strongest point in the summertime. And so then it gives you a little bit more shading, a little bit more ability to keep the temperatures regulated. And then in the winter, like if you made them deciduous trees, like trees that lose their leaves, shrubs that lose their leaves, then in the wintertime, the sun is right there and it's not blocked by them, and it would warm the greenhouse out better for you. Water, you got to think about how you're going to get water to it. Right now, I am lugging out watering cans, jugs, and I also have some leaks in the ceiling. So I've got some pails out on the ground to collect the rainwater, because rainwater is really good for your plants. It's better than well water, and it's better than the city water. So, but then watch your water and your electricity, because those two don't mix. Use those special outlets that will pop a fuse if there's water in with the electricity. Don't use extension cords if at all possible. Wire the electric in. I need to share this too as a post about how dangerous it is. One day I went out in early March and I could smell something burning and I wasn't sure what it was. And what had happened is I didn't have the good electrical then. I was running an extension cord from the back garage all the way over to the greenhouse. And I was using my heater plugged into that extension cord. Well, the extension cord was not rated for the amount of amps that the heater draws. I'm not an electrician. I don't know all that stuff. But I do know that the flat part of the extension cord was starting to melt. So that was bad. And it could have been much worse if I hadn't caught it. So since then, my husband has run electrical in the proper conduit and things like that, and the right ampage, so that should not happen again. What else? Heat, water, electric, shade. Organize it the way you want it to be too. Figure out what you want to make on the floor. Mine, I had made platforms on top of landscape timbers, and then I put my shelving units on those platforms so they would stay steady. And I thought, well, I can just hose it off really easy. It'd be easy to clean. And then the center is almost like a heat sink. I've got a bunch of river rock in the center, maybe 6 inches of river rock that go down into the center. Again, because if it gets wet and muddy, you don't want to be out there. And it's also going to be more, there'll be more moisture in the air, and your plants would be more sensitive to like fungus and stuff. Do keep small fans on them to just kind of keep that air circulating if you can. The big fans are more for venting and moving all of the air, but the smaller fans that are more directed like on the plants, or those cross breezes that you can get, are going to help those stems get stronger and then harden them off better. That was the other thing, as I learned from, I was watching some video where the guy had tomatoes grown in a greenhouse. They were hardening off in the greenhouse versus hardening off the old-fashioned way where you take it outside for an hour, bring it in, take it outside for 2 hours, the next day bring it in, or you put it outside for one whole cloudy day. So he took some that he hardened off the traditional way, and he took some that he had just put in the greenhouse and planted both of them to see which one did better. And the one in the greenhouse was just as good as the other ones. Actually, I don't think he planted them first. I think first he just like set them on a bench to see which one, like in the sun, to see which one would be more affected by the sun. Because when they say harden off, that means the leaves start getting extra layers to protect themselves from the sun. So you do it gradually. Because if you just throw them out in the sun and they're not ready, it's like us Caucasians with light skin going out in the sun the first time. If we're out for too long, we get a sunburn. So they can get a sunburn. So hardening off helps prevent that. It helps get those protective layers against the sun. And so when he put both plants out on a bench like all day long, he found that both of them were fine. So that's my hope, is that by me moving all the stuff from my indoor spot where I'm growing things under lights just immediately out to the outdoor greenhouse, that when it comes time to planting, I should be able to just put them right in the ground and have success. That's my thought on that. And what else? Electric water. I don't know. I would just try it. If you haven't tried it yet and you're thinking about it, I would just get something right now. And probably more with a hard structure, but make it small. You don't have to have a huge greenhouse. I have a friend who, I think she's got like a 10 by 10 greenhouse or an 8 by 8 greenhouse, and it's glass. It works just fine for her. She's got shelving units. She's got things she can hang things from, and storage, and it works fine. But just try it first and see what you think. On the small scale. And you don't have to get all fancy with the materials. Like I said, mine on the bottom has the corrugated metal, and then on the top it has the corrugated plastic sides. They're flexible, but eventually because it's plastic, it's probably going to wear out from the weather and stuff. So there you go, a little bit about greenhouses as I made the drive over from the homestead to my daughter's new place. And that would be it, I think, for now. I hope you're having a great weekend, and happy Mother's Day to those who have mothers, and happy Remembrance Day to those who lost mothers. Happy Parent Day to the fathers who are being mothers too. And everyone's been born. Every human has been born. So we all have mothers somewhere. Whether your relationship is good or bad, you can send a little bit of love, a little bit of positive energy, a little bit of prayer towards your mother, your biological mother, or your adoptive mother. Everybody. And I just hope you have a decent weekend. And if you need to cry, do it. It's okay. If you need a cup of tea, make yourself a cup of tea. If you need some flowers, go buy some flowers, or go to your park and pick some flowers, or go in the wild and you can come to my place and pick flowers, whatever. If you need a hot bath, take a hot bath. If you need a friend to talk to, call a friend. Instead of this text or messaging, call somebody, get all the words out. There was a time when I was going through a divorce where I didn't want to burden all my friends, so I kept a list of numbers. I don't know, there's like 7, 10 numbers. Kept a list of them. If I needed to talk to someone really bad about a situation, I would call the first person, and maybe I would talk for an hour because I needed to get all the words out. And then I'd be like, okay, thanks. If I still needed to talk, I could call that second person on my list and just go on and on and on and talk. And it was okay. I didn't feel like I was burdening anyone. And it could even be the same subject matter, and it was okay. And then if I still needed to talk, I talked to the third person. So mother-daughter relationships, mother-son relationships, all these different intergenerational things they can be tough, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to want something different, or to want to move towards something different, toward more positive relationships. That's okay too. But don't forget, you're not alone. You're not alone, and you're not an accident, and you're not alone, and a bad day doesn't make a bad life, and all those other platitudes. But at any rate, this is Tammy Lowe, the Lazy Northern Gardener, and my daughter's been calling me, so I probably need to call her back and see what's going on. Signing off. Happy Mother's Day 2022. Bye. Oh, learn and grow. Learn and grow. Learn and grow. Learn and grow.